Okay, good evening. Welcome to the March 29th, 2023 meeting of the Finance Committee. We have a quorum of members here this evening. We're missing one. And first up tonight, we have Superintendent Legault, who is here to take us through the school budget presentation that they've actually given out previously, but to take the committee through it. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us. So I gave thank you very much for inviting us up to talk with you and talk to you about our needs for the district. On March 7th, 2023, we had a budget presentation and a budget hearing in front of the school committee, which then a week later, they certified the budget and sent it up to the town. And we had our budget hearing, and we also had our budget presentation in all of our buildings, including Town Hall, that if anybody wanted to see this, they could, and it's also up on EBCAM. It is also up on our website if people would like to still see it. It is still up there. We do have more backup information if people want backup as well. John Shea's willing to provide that at any time. Mr. Shea, our business administrator, is not here with me tonight. He is on a well-deserved some time off for himself. So I do ask that if there's anything in a backup or one of the worksheets, maybe Melanie needs it for the town, or anything that you might need, that I would just say that I'll get that to you as soon as possible.
Yep.
I gave you a packet tonight, which is the budget and the proposed budget. And also, Mr. Pika had reached out to us and asked us a few questions on the presentation and on some of the worksheets, the model that John has for the school district, and just asked us some questions on Chromebooks and subs. There was a line that was missing, and what is ClassLink, on a couple of technology pieces that we had. I gave you all that in a packet today. If those questions come up, we can certainly go to that, but I also asked why our sub rates were different, our substitutes rates were different, and I can give you an explanation for that. And I also, I gave, a couple of weeks ago, I went to a legislative breakfast, and I put this in your packet because these are the things that we talked about at the legislative breakfast, and the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents went around the state, started talking to all the roundhouse and the round table groups. We're on the South Shore, so we were up in Brockton. They came up and sort of got our approval to say, yes, these are the things that we need, these are the things that we would like. So these were just some notes that the association had distributed to us and what they had asked the government for, or had gone to the Ways and Means Committee. And I thought that you could see what's happening on the education side on our behalf. So I just thought it was interesting, and I just put it together, and I thought it was just an FYI. Just thought it would be good for you just to see what's happening in the back. So
Thank you.
thank you. So if you want to start on the packet, I would just move at, the packet, we are a high quality inclusive instruction. We have in all areas: math, social studies, science, ELA, world languages, ELL. Our ELL population is increasing every year. Our free and reduced lunches have increased. However, we knock on wood that we'll continue the the government will, the feds and the state will continue to pay for the lunches, and we'll get the reimbursement on that. That has been a godsend for many families who have food insecurities and that we work with. And so hopefully we'll continue that up. Technology, physical education, health and wellness, music and band, fine arts, our CAD program, and we've added an early college and alternative education programs. We'll graduate 2 students this June from our Fire Safety Academy. Both students will graduate with their EMT certificates. Chief Heron will be at graduation, along with, I think it's Lieutenant, call him Jeff, who's overseeing our program. He will be there to pass out diplomas, and our students will be then positioned to go to one of the fire academies and be hired in a local district, maybe even here at East Bridgewater. We host lots of extracurricular activities, athletics, intramurals, drama, acceleration academies. We have the Little Vikings, which I saw Mrs. Verasso today, where we're already filled for the summer. We don't even have to advertise outside to other area communities. We are packed.
That's great.
Yeah, and we have a very active before and after care. We have some students that are dropped off by 7 or 8 in the morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and are not picked up till 6 p.m. at night. So people are working, and it is a godsend for many families who have to work those lengthy hours. And we have lots of clubs. And so I asked for the support on that comprehensive education program. On page 2 of the presentation, where we are today and where we want to be and we need to be tomorrow is our 2023 budget. What we are currently in is a $23,607,473 budget. And we're asking for $25,245,009, an increase of $1.6 million, a little bit more than 1.6. We received in our Chapter 70 funding an increase of $673,367, and which is an overall of $12,873,000. So the town contribution, as you can see on the page, would be $12,371,692. The budget drivers on page 3, of course, is salary. That is our number one budget driver. Technology needs, transportation, external factors, vocational ed, and special education. Our contractual obligations have been fulfilled in 2023, $19,901,973. Next year will be $20,931,366, and that'll be a change of $1,029,393. We have no contractual negotiations this year.
So that's like a 5% increase, right?
The teacher, the EBEA teachers or certified this was their first year in a new 3-year CBA, was 23-24. Next year is 24-25, 23-24. 24-25 will be their 3rd year. So we have 2 more years in this current contract. The contracts that are up for next year that we will be renegotiating for the 24-25 school year will be custodial, instructional assistants, secretarial, assistant principals. I think that's all.
And the EBEA contract in
3 years.
22,
so we finished it, this is their first year, so 23. So we finished it in the spring of 23, went into effect in August,
spring
September.
of 22 you finished, right?
Spring, yes,
Yeah,
spring of
okay.
22. This year it begins. If you read, the contract was, had a 2.5% increase to begin the contract. 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, on March 2nd, or 3 weeks ago, our first paycheck in March, they increased to 2.5% on the 90th day. So half the year was at 2.5, second half is 2.5.
And then the subsequent 2 years are 0. Yeah, okay.
But zeros, but yet they have lane and step changes,
Right.
column and step changes.
Yes.
So with anything, I always look out, and knowing that we came off of COVID, at some point, we knew there would be a drop. So you try to pay up, I've always tried to do that. They deserve that. We have we also, they deserve the increase in pay. There's a lot going on. But I will say this, that we have salary A and then a B. We have 2 schedules right now, an A and a B. So right now, the B for next year, it was 50-50 of people on the original contract or the original pay scale. And then we have the B pay scale, which is newer teachers in the last, not this contract, but the one before. Now we'll be over almost 60-40 now of the B. So when this comes up, we may collapse and do 1, and then we'll bring it back around. So. Some non-salary, push the the budget drivers, is special education and out-of-district tuitions. They really drive what we're doing. This year was about 2.486 million, 499. Next year it's 2,797,197, or a $310,000 change, or 12.5%. And the driver on that is out-of-district tuitions. Technology, this year is $500,000. Next year we're at $710,000. That's a change of 207, and that's a 41.4% increase. A lot of the drivers is the cybersecurity. Our insurance company has asked the town and the school district to increase the security systems on our infrastructure and for both, I think, town and schools. And then the Chromebooks that we buy for grades 3 and grades 7. They get new Chromebooks as we go through, and then they keep them. So that's an added expense. Transportation, we have 1 more year with the Lucini contract. This year was 947.7, next year is 959.4. That's probably our best contract that you see out in front of you. Least expensive at 11.7, 1.2% increase, and that'll be 5 of the 5th year, 5 for 5 contract. I have talked to Bill Lucini. He wants to continue with us. We work very closely with Lucini's. I have talked to him about going electric with the buses, because there are incentives for electric buses. We don't live in Maine or New Hampshire where the snowfall and the extreme temperatures up in Maine or upstate New York. It may be a possibility. He is looking at it. But he has to sign a contract with them for 5 years. I think his concern is who does the maintenance, how do they get maintained, where are we gonna plug them in, all of these things. So those were things that we did talk about. However, we did have that conversation. So that's something. We also, our bus drivers here in East Bridgewater are unionized, so he does have contracts with them. We do not. He does from Lucini. Our alternative education, the district put $30,000, allocated $30,000 last year. We're gonna allocate another $30,000. Those are for students to take early college courses and to be part of the fire safety. We're also offering next year police academy, and we're also offering early educators academy, so it's people that wanna go into teaching, students that wanna go into teaching. So we have those. The total is, for this year is about $4 million, and next year for 2024 is almost $4.5 million, an increase of $530,000 or 11%, and this just meets our students' needs. Southeastern VOTEC, this year is $1,033,000. We do not have, I don't know how many students will be going over there at this time. I don't have those numbers, I'm projecting and estimating it will be an increase of about $140,000. And so that comes out of the town budget, but I don't know those numbers, and I don't know the Aggie numbers as of yet. We have not received the final count. Some of the external factors, if you go to the second page, our increase in Chapter 70 funding. The reason that we received more funding from the state is directly correlated to the following factors. The number of low-income students, free and reduced lunches, has increased. Our number of homeless and foster care students has increased. Our number of ELL students with a second language has increased. And our special education population has increased, or the needs have increased. We have added access classrooms at the Central School, the Gordon Mitchell School, and the East Bridgewater Junior Senior High School. Those are rooms that are extensive and need intensive supports. And we also had a student that had an unfunded mandated student out of DCF. This student was taken out of the home, was placed in East Bridgewater, and then is now taken out of this place and taken out of East Bridgewater, placed someplace else. Now is in a another placement, and we split the cost with the state. And I think we're at $80,000. It's a $160,000 placement. We do not have any. We can't even tell them what to do, where to put the student. There's issues at home. We don't get involved in that, and so we just want to support the student. But the student is out of district.
So on all these external factors, where it says, we've got increased hospitalizations, low income, homeless, students with ESL, we see an increase is what you're telling us, but is there any percentage or numbers you can throw around there, that?
I can get a little bit, I can dig deeper. If you go to the next, I can get you the DESI numbers, I do have those. But our ELL population went from 8 students in 2016, now we're over 67 students in 2023. The classrooms that we talk about here, and I can get you those numbers, we're now up at 30% of our student population in special education. And we're at 19%. We were at 22 and 19, and I think we'll go back up. But because of the free lunches, there's a little bit of, in the COVID, they're still catching up to that one. We're about 19% on free and reduced lunches. Homeless and foster care students, I can tell you how many we have, Dave, but we don't talk, it's, I can give you a percentage on that, but I can tell you we've got a lot of homeless students. Hospitalizations, I don't have that number in front of me, but I can certainly get that to you, but we have sent multiple students from all buildings, either through ambulance or through their parents for emergency room visit or care visit. And that's pre-K, 1, 2. We've also had to do that. So when people think that it only happens to a 17-year-old or a 22-year-old, I can tell you that we've had a 6-year-old. So this is going deeper and deeper now. But I can certainly give you the exact percentages on that, send that to you. District expenditures, special education is 10.6%, vocational is 4.4%, transportation 3.6%, technology is 2.7%, and salary is 78.7%. I wanted to do this for a couple of years now. I know that it's nerve-wracking to look at this, but this is at my end, it's a business. When we talk about money, most of it is in salary. So you need people, you need hands, and we have great people, so. And And then some of the capital projects in 2023. We did a lot of great things. The Mitchell School parking lot looks fantastic. Looks like a different place over there. We were able to buy 2 district passenger vans. They're, with the help of the town. They're insured now. We just put the license plates on them today. They're registered. Our name is going on them. We even did that out of our own CADS program. We're putting the name of East Bridgewater Public Schools. You see the picture that's in our driveway. They are here. They're down at the, and we know, I talked to the special education director today, Jay Fallon, on April 4th. We had contracts, our transitional program, those access rooms and other rooms at the high school or at the Mitchell School. The teachers, we got them all their 70D licensure. So they will be driving their students in vans that we bought from North River Collaborative that are used for special education students and the needs of those programs. They'll be able to do their transitioning instead of us renting a bus for the day or a van for the day from one of our companies that provides for us. We'll have our own. They'll be able to drive it. Their teacher assistants their instructional assistants will go, and the students. So they go to Stop and Shop once a month. They go to Target. They'll go to a farm. They'll go places that is an educational experience, and also putting some of the things that they're learning in the classroom for real life experience. So that's going to save a lot of money. We also do have an instructional assistant who is in one of these classrooms but also wants to drive the van in the morning. We have 2 homeless students. One is in Fall River. We're waiting to see on the placement of that. We have one in New Bedford. This person is willing to pick the van up very early in the morning and pick those 2 students up. That was an extra, I believe, $80,000 to our budget this year, just to pick up those 2 students who are homeless. So we go all the way down, bring them back, all the way down, drop them off, come back. So we had one company. I think Jay Fallon he really worked hard to get transportation for them. We had somebody, they wanted almost $750 a day to go down and back. By law, we had to do it, but I think we since worked out a better deal. But nobody has any vans either. So, yeah, that's the other big one. We also did the Central School, the driveway for emergency improvement. We never had a fire lane over there, so if you got in there, you would get stuck. We opened that up, and it's been a godsend so we can get in and out just in case. We moved a dust collector for the relocation because the room is being used at the high school. And it was at a better location. Now the kids there's a place for the sawdust to go and some of that dust. And point of sales, the cafeteria point of sale system, we've put that in. And that was a capital project. Those are the point of sales. Central School only had 1 point of sale, and they only had 1 lane in and out. We've got 2 down there, which is helping the students go a little bit quicker, get in and get out. We have them at the high school, and we also have them at the Mitchell School. But we definitely need, this was district-wide for these systems. For the 2024, what we are looking at in capital request is a box truck, replacement for our box truck, which is a need for transporting food. It comes into the high school, and then she allocates it out, Deb Vaughn, or we have to bring something from Mitchell to Central to moving stuff around. And we also use the box truck in the summertime to move equipment. And they've also, we've taken one of the vans that are down there now, which I don't think will pass inspection, and that's why we went and got some more vans. But this is the reason the box truck will probably not pass inspection this next time around. So that's outdoor security cameras replacements. We've replaced a ton of them. We need some more. Technology upgrades, we continue to upgrade for cybersecurity. We increase on our own technology upgrades for our students and for cybersecurity, but that's $132,000. The stadium turf and the field replacement, I know it's a lot, and you know, whether we get it this year or in 5 years from now, or however we're gonna do this, if we don't do it and keep up on it, we're gonna lose that field. And it's gonna cost more and more as we go away from it. So, on the box truck, I just would like to say this, that I have spoken to Deb Vaughn, our food director. Not that we just can't do this, but we did have a conversation about looking at her paying for half of this out of the revolving funds. So we do look at those revolving accounts that we have, and we look at it, where can we use this money, and I did speak to her about this. So we could do that, but I do like to involve the directors in this, so to see what we can do and what we're looking at. We are supporting, on the next page, it said looking forward, we are supporting, from our school choice revolving account, I've asked the school committee to allow me to hire another position, to supporting instruction by adding an RTI instructional coach. And that would be another person, and to continue to our professional development and universal design, so that all students, and all teachers, are versed. And this would be like a mentor or a coach for teachers that would be in the classroom. So whether it's somebody we already have on staff that would get a stipend, or bringing somebody in, we would be paying for this out of our school choice, out of our revolving account. We're gonna continue to increase our professional growth opportunities with this model for our teachers. It offers personalized support for even veteran teachers that need support. And we hope that it will close the achievement gaps, to break down the barriers, in our classrooms, with the curriculum for students. We have interventions at all 3 schools now, Central, Mitchell, and the high school, that are working very well. We have inclusive supported classrooms, whereas we have less self-contained rooms, and we are slowly, probably not 100% yet, but Jay Fallon is working at this, is to get rid of all resource rooms. We will support students when they need them, but students will get direct instruction with their peers in their classrooms, not with another classroom or outside of a classroom. So if you're in 5th grade, you have an IEP, you're not in another classroom getting instruction. You're with your peers in 5th grade, hearing the instruction. Your teacher from that self-contained room is in there with you, which we have seen an increased, we've seen supported, and our data is showing that it's working. It's a continuum, and it's gonna be some time, but the interventions are working, our support systems are working, and the direct instruction is definitely a support for the kids. This is just a closer look on how we look at it from the educational lens, with the professional growth, personalized support, closing the achievement gap. And then last but not least, I brought it up last night, the MSBA has allowed us to get into the accelerated repair or new building or renovation project. We took the vote last night for the school committee to move in to see if to go for a feasibility study for Central School. Now it goes to the Board of Selectmen for their vote on Monday night.
It probably won't be this Monday now, it'll probably be the 10th.
Charlie?
Hi.
So we'll get that done, and we'll send that up, and then what that allows us to do is, and what allows me to do, is ask Mr. Seelig, who's here tonight, to ask his Board of Selectmen to possibly have a special town meeting in the fall to allocate the funds for a feasibility study, to see what needs to be done for Central School, what we should do for Central School, what they believe needs to happen at Central School, and then we can make a educated and more informed decision about Central School. Because I can tell you that the plumbing, that the electricity, that the technology, that the rooms, that the windows need help. But until I think people hear an engineer come in, that comes in with, that they look at every aspect of that building, from, the boiler to the roof, we'll hear that informed and we'll make a decision. That right now, the reimbursement is still at 57.25% from the state for a building project. And I will tell you this, the average elementary school, from what we understand and what has been around, is between 100 to 135 million. I know people get nervous about that, I get nervous about that, but it's out there, and that's what I wanted to come back. I'm not gonna hold anything back, so people need to hear that number. Easton was up there, I think about 125. Foxborough just completed one. Middleborough completed their high school. They based it on enrollment as it was being built through COVID and before COVID. They're out of space at this time. So, I mean, we're looking at that with Route 18 and the new developments that could possibly bring in more students. We know that some data says that they'll bring in 5 students in a 100-unit housing development, when we have other studies that say it could be up to a child per home. So that's something that will be taken into consideration as well in the feasibility throughout the district, if we do something like that for the enrollment.
So what was the number for the projected cost of a school? Just,
About 100 million for elementary school for our size.
okay, thank you.
And then, the backup on that, I can send that, we sent it out in the soft rate, I think, I'm not sure if we gave you one, but we can send it up to you again. On the soft rate, on the model that John has, all the accounts,
Yes.
by accounts, under schools, and we can send that to you. It's just, I figured we would do this and
Yeah.
take it back up.
Yeah, I can push that out. I have that. I can push that out to everybody.
I don't know if you wanted me to just hit some of those questions that you would ask today, Dan, or you wanted to talk about it, or if you wanted to go right into questions,
Um,
or if anybody has any questions.
yeah, why don't we go into questions?
Okay.
That anyone might have.
Sure. Off-site physical cloud storage. There's a question in there about the operatical for the town, finance backup storage and stuff. And if I'm reading this right, you're looking for backup to the backup? Because you want to have it?
We need a backup for the backup. So we put our information into the cloud, and it's in a backup storage. If that was ever infiltrated, that there would be another backup for that. I think the insurance company, if I'm not mistaken, has
Well, in fact.
also supported that
I
and
think
wants
you
us
have
to
it
do
in,
that.
Ryan's budget, in
Yes.
fact, has asked for something similar.
I don't think his is cloud-based, though.
No, that's
No, it
the
was off-site.
Yeah.
That's the offsite, right?
Yeah.
And I think with the off-site physical, I think it was in at 15,000. When talking to Ryan, he thinks it's maybe supposed to be 1,500. Because that's a split cost of 3,000 per year for the town and the school, so he's wondering if that should be 1,500, so we can check with John
Okay.
about that line for the, that's the off-site though.
The storage.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the cloud-based isn't something, I don't think that the town side is doing. Right.
I don't remember that in his budget.
No.
No, but I think we've got the physical storage, then we have it's unbelievable what we need to have to keep all of the storage, especially for our SIMs, our student information systems. We know that Whitman Hanson, this year was attacked, with ransomware. They're still writing checks. The superintendent is still signing his own checks for his employees. And I do know that they spent out of pocket about $1 million just for the information, and they did not get any of the information back from whoever took it. So that's why I think we're going in this direction.
Would that be the third place we're holding the information?
Yes. Yep, so we have on-site backups, then there's gonna be the off-site backup, that's being done, and then a cloud would
I
be-
believe there's a cloud. There will be. There is the cloud.
Yes,
Yeah.
then that would be, the cloud would be,
Right.
sorry.
Plus whatever's on the system at the school. So.
Yes, you have the server there,
Right.
then the server gets backed up here,
Yeah. And then it got
and
backed
vice
up there,
versa, and then
gets
it'll
back
get
up
backed
there.
up to Taunton or wherever.
Yes,
you
I think
said.
it's a taunt, right?
Yeah.
But that's, you're also looking at payroll, insurance, the payroll is the big one. If they infiltrate that, then, or student information or anybody's information. Right, I mean, that's the. And that I would definitely have, if you wanted more information on technology, I would have Ryan and Andrew Lamacchia in on those questions for the cybersecurity.
Yeah, he was gonna talk to, Ryan was gonna talk to,
They were down there yesterday.
our EDR, because what, I'm not even,
Yeah.
honestly, the EDR, Ryan is doing it with the town as well, so he's gonna cross-reference all the price, all the
Yeah.
pricing that both sides got and make sure that it's at the,
Yeah.
maybe we can get a
Compare.
better deal if it's all combined, or, so I know he's looking at that, he sent out an email today.
And I think that that is not my forte in the cybersecurity, but to have the guys that oversee it at the district and at the town, you may want them, just ask them, what is it doing and how does it
Yeah.
work?
We should probably.
John's end is, the finances of it and, the companies that we use
Right.
to work for it. And Melanie's job is that, but for me, I would say we could bring them up for you.
And then what is the single sign-on class link? I'm just not, I guess I just don't understand. It's supposed to combine,
These are all for, the Launchpad education, these are all for in the classrooms. For the
Yeah.
apps that we use with all of the teachers, what they use,
okay,
and what the kids what they can sign into and what they use. That, I would also I could also bring in Andrew and Josh on those, and also,
yeah, that probably
Aaron
makes the
Fisher.
most sense, right?
Yeah, these are, they hold our data. The students use the apps for different classes. Some of our curriculums are web-based, so not everybody has a book all the time. We might go to the app, we might use an online curriculum. So these are there for that. And then, they also have the security feature.
Melanie, did you say Ryan was gonna check with Andrew on is it the EDR? Is that what you said? Okay. It would probably be, I think our next meeting's Monday. Pretty sure it's Monday. Isn't that what he said last
I
night?
think it is.
Monday, right? Yeah. Maybe we can have Andrew and Ryan come on Monday.
For us, I would give me another week.
Okay.
Because I would have to, let me see where they are. I don't think John's coming back till Tuesday. He would probably want to be here with Andrew Lamacchia.
Okay.
I have it on
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Is it Tuesday? Okay, maybe it is Tuesday. Sorry.
Just let me know on that, and if we can get them here, I will.
And what maybe we can each do is if everyone wants to digest the information, I can send out the full budget to everyone. And then if we have questions, you can forward them back to me, I'll summarize them, we'll get them to John and Liz. And then we can invite them back when John's back from vacation.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. For most of us, I think, have already preliminarily reviewed the budget and where we're at. And there's still a deficit. and we talk about different ways how we're gonna handle this deficit, et cetera, things like that, but, you know, and one of the things that I just wanna state here is that if we're talking about using a stabilization fund, I think that's a big mistake. Because how do you fund it next year and the year after? And a great example for that is right here, where we talk about nurses pay. We added, and then custodian, we added these people and we pay them with IRSA funds. But right now, it's gonna cost us $180,000 more because the funds have run out. So now, in order to keep those positions, we have to fund them because they're no longer on grants. Well, that's the same thing that happens with the stabilization fund. The money's going out of there, it's gone. But the hard and truth fact is, we're still, we're still down 600, 300,000, I don't know which way you look at it, but we've got some deficits here still. I do want to say I appreciate the conversation about the truck, because Capital did approve that $73,000. And at this point, anything will help. And we do, you're right, we have a lot of big projects coming down the road that we're talking about, that we want to say, okay, we've had to put them off on capital, we're hoping they get the ARPA grant money for some of them. We're talking about some expensive things, we're talking about the turf at the field, we're talking about a track at the field, we're talking about a $1.3 million study over here, plus the $1 million for that, and another $1 million for that, and then we got the roof at the Mitchell School. Okay, so those are all coming up in the next few years. So, part of the strategy, and I guess I'll just phase into the capital conversation right now, is, we have looked at how can we fund these projects? We don't have enough money. But some of them were very important, and some of them we had to put off, and we had to say, okay, we'll talk about the school in the fall, see where that is. Because we don't have it right now. We can't commit funds to that right now. There's been, like the rationale around the stabilization fund for capital. So we're saying, okay, we got a certain amount falling off debt this year, we have a certain amount we're gonna allow from free cash. The fire department's paying back $133,000 back into the capital stabilization fund as the second to last payment, I think, on the ladder truck, right? And they'll get another one next year. That, to fund capital the way we've been doing it for the past few years, we can do this much, okay? But if we then say we take $240,000 out of the capital stabilization fund, we can do this much more. So we've got to look at that. I just want to throw a suggestion out to you, Melanie and Charlie, to see if, I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea, but it's an idea, okay? Does it make any sense, looking at the debt relief that you've given us over the next few years and all the paperwork we've gotten, does it make sense to take any additional money out of the capitalization stabilization fund in order to pay down some of those bonds or some of those debts we have out there, especially if they have high interest? And then, instead of making the payments there, we can replenish, saving the interest money into the capital stabilization fund.
Yeah, we can look into that.
Because I'm sure with everything that's happened over the past year with inflation, interest rates, I mean, we gotta be paying some, we're not paying 2%.
Well, we wouldn't in the future, but we may, depending on when we borrowed, I mean, those interest rates were down for a fair amount of time. We'd have to check to see when we pulled that down.
Yeah, and there might be some older ones when the rates are up high, I mean, some are 10 years, some are 20 years, whatever. But I think it's just something we can look at, because then, some of those places where we're looking, I know, and everybody's trying to stick to the plan, that last year we said, we're putting in this much from free cash, but we know we've got to, over the next 3 years, cut it down, because it's not a good way to sustain an operating budget. And I've been hearing that mantra since 1996, okay? It's ingrained in me, and I also believe it's the truth. So, so with that, maybe, if we can get some relief there, then some of the money that was gonna be used, cut back out of free cash, we could slow that down a little bit to take a little absorption on some of this. But there is no one answer here. I think there's a multitude of solutions, a lot of different, like, little pieces to make this whole pie. But, you know, Liz, I'll just ask you but if we're meeting next week or whatever, I mean, I would like to understand what can be done or what would have to be done to reduce the budget somewhat.
Well, you know, again, you need people. And unfortunately, with the social emotional learning, I mean, that's where we're seeing it. We're seeing it in that area. I'm hoping that the government, that the state allocates more monies into special education and that area to pick up that out-of-district tuition. That 14% is it could bury us. So I'm hoping.
You're hoping. Do
And
you
I'm
really
hoping that-
think that's gonna happen?
I do. I do think the
Because-
millionaire's tax, she's got to dig deeper.
The millionaire's tax, I'm hearing from all different stretches that most of it's going to the MBTA.
I'm sure it is, but I'm saying she needs a little dig deeper for your education right now.
And
And,
the other-
I mean, that's huge. The other thing is though, Dave, we do, I don't like paying for teachers out of ESSER. I don't like paying for teachers out of ARPA. However, I have an adjustment counselor in each building. I need 2 adjustment counselors in each building.
I know, one thing that came up I think it was yesterday, the ARPA meeting.
There was
talked about funding
300,000.
some positions there.
Yes.
And the question came up, and Mr. Maggi responded, we've gotten through it before in the past. What happens in 2 years when it's not funded anymore? Well, this is where we're at. This I find very interesting. I want to make sure I understand this
Right.
one correctly. If I'm reading this correctly, out of the towns in the Commonwealth, 25
Yep.
school districts get the most money
Absolutely.
than the rest of the 319?
Absolutely.
So this
those are your
is
gateways.
Brockton, Lawrence, Fall River,
Revere, New Bedford, Revere, Lynn, Springfield, Brockton. They're getting all the money. We got $64,000 in student. Tomorrow, I will spend 4 hours on the Student Opportunity Act and putting in all of the things that we've done for ELL and special education students, and I just received all of that information from Jay Fallon and Dr. Williams' office in ELL. We will write it all down, we'll put all the great things that we've done here in East Bridgewater, send it up, and we will still, if this model continues, we will be one of the 319 that do not receive enough to pay for.
You know, this goes way back when they were looking at
Yep.
the funding I mean, God, when I was in office, we were talking about the funding in Chapter 70 and blah, 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 and all that, and they were gonna rewrite the rules because they weren't fair and blah, blah, blah. I think this stuff drives me crazy, like unfunded mandates,
Yep.
drive me crazy. And I think we should, even us as a committee, Finance Committee, the Board of Selectmen, the School Committee, we need to get some of our local elected officials involved in this. Unfortunately, we share one of our major ones with Brockton, and they have a lot more votes than we have, so I don't know if, but we've got to make our voices heard here to our elected officials, because somebody's got to be speaking for us. And I'm not so sure we're getting that. And, I mean, squeaky wheel gets the oil, this stuff, I wasn't ready for that tonight, I'll tell you that much. That really ticks me off. I suspected, I'll just tell you what, I remember one year where we didn't have enough money, of course, it's like almost every year, and Brockton had a ton of money left at the end of the year, and they went out and bought all new copiers and printers for the whole campus at the high school, and they had just replaced them the year before, because they had to spend the money. So that's what's going on around here. We have to look for some additional aid. And because I can tell you, everybody I talk to is concerned a little bit about their taxes. It's up there. I mean, I was telling somebody the other day, I remember the town budget was $23 million. It's $60 million now. And it's, We talk about homeless, we talk about this, we're gonna be driving people out of the town, not coming into the town. It's just, it's not gonna be affordable. And especially when they promote things like this millionaire's tax, or special education's gonna be really important in transportation. Well, let's see it. That money's not gonna be around until next year anyway.
Right, and so a couple of things that I just wanted to point out. I said this the other day in a meeting, that Charlie, I think Melanie were here. We had a meeting. I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying. People laugh when I go to, an opening of an envelope, whether it's at the State House, whether someone calls me and says, we're bringing in a congressman, or we're bringing in a state senator or representative, and they're gonna be at Whitman Hanson for breakfast at 9 o'clock, and there's 4 superintendents and their aide that comes. I'm one of those superintendents. So when I've asked for grants, we're getting them. When I get up there for early college, and I can tell you, we just received $75,000 I saw one of the deputy, the associate commissioner, and I was like, don't forget about East Bridgewater. 2 days later, we sent someone up there and we got some additional funding for a full consortium of 10 schools, but still, don't forget us. I'm at these places. I was at that breakfast 2 weeks ago. It was one of the people, I spoke to Senator Brady, I spoke to Sullivan, Representative Sullivan. I asked them if they would come and have breakfast with us, and I mentioned this at the meeting that we were here. People can laugh at it. She's on the Ways and Means Committee. We need her help. We need her support, and she's fantastic to speak to. She's very easy. Senator Brady, he comes over. He knows I'm East Bridgewater. He comes right over. They know because I'm at these. I am advocating and cheering us on all the way. So it's not going on deaf ears, Dave. I certainly agree with you. People laugh. Oh, you went to that? Yeah. And I'm going up May 4th too. And I'll go to wherever we start, the club down the street, and then you walk up, and you get to see your representatives. You know what? The local representatives like to see you. They want to know you're involved, and they'll remember you when you're out there. And, I'll tell Mike Thomas not to go, because everybody knows him from Brockton, and he's my buddy, but I'm there, and we're asking. I did ask Allison. Walter's, Timothy's left, the new, what's his name? Our new rep. Cassidy. I met him, and I invited them to have breakfast with us, and I said that I'll bring him here, we'll have it at the schools, and I'll invite Charlie down and his departments, along with the school department, and to have a breakfast. And we'll host it, so that they can see what we need and hear from all of us. So that's coming up. I've been writing letters. We get those form letters that you guys get up at the State House. I just wrote 4 of them last week for this exact thing. The millionaire's tax. I know people, they say, well, it's not enough. Well, the governor needs to dig deeper. She needs to go into that a little bit deeper. She went in and she took some for education, and she needs to go a little bit deeper for us. I'm hoping that she does. And the ESSER funds and the ARPA funds, I agree with you. I don't like to put salaries on the backs of those, but I need adjustment counselors. I don't need another math teacher. I don't need another grade 5. I need adjustment counselors, social workers, adjustment counselors, and nurses. We put 2 nurses in each building. I mean, you brought those up. We took them out of ESSER funds. We can't survive now without 2. The amount of medications that we give out. They're also helping with SEL. Student comes down, we didn't realize, they were talking about alcohol in the 6th grade. Student hears that, they have that in their home, there's an issue with it, they might go to the nurse now. It's another person for us to talk to and then sort of the nurse is helping us out in the social emotional part of it. So, I hear you. I'm hoping we get that 3.
It's just a shame that
Yes.
we have to fight all the time for funds and grants and things like that, because it makes it difficult to manage. And
the topic is not, this isn't unique to East Bridgewater. It was on 60 Minutes on Sunday night.
Right.
Everything about this post-COVID world in schools and the burden it's putting on.
I mean, once again, we had a school shooting this week. If you look at that school shooting and those doors, I have been talking about the Mitchell School entranceways for probably as long as I've gotten here. Chief O'Brien came with me to Mitchell School, we looked at it, had Brian Kiley come down, had John Shea. And I said, we cannot wait any longer on these doors. We have to do something. Whether we find bricks and brick it and have the steel doors, but I want steel doors at all the buildings. It's not gonna stop a semi-automatic, those weapons, but it'll slow you down enough. And we're close enough where, like Chief O'Brien, like, I need 2 minutes to get here. Minute and a half to get here. 2 minutes to get down there. I need that much time, and we're gonna get it. But if you watch that, I'm asking for those doors. They're expensive.
That's an ARPA meeting.
That's an
Yes.
ARPA, yeah.
But what I'm saying is, you know, they're terrible necessities. Whoever thought we would need this for an assault weapon? I mean,
Right.
you know, I mean, look at the doors. I mean, they look just like Mitchell School. You know, we're also putting those what do they call them, pylons
Pylons.
in front of the door, so if somebody were to ever try to breach us by driving a car through the doorway. That has happened in a school district before. I'm putting those up, or having them put up. So I mean, that's the sad part. Hopefully, we get the grants that we talked about with FinCom before. If we, you know, we're at 1.6 now. If we get 300,000 in ARPA, it brings us down to 1.3. If we get the other $170,000 for the transportation, that'll bring us down to, you know, 1.4. If we get the other 150,000 for special needs in that category, then that brings us down to 1.2, 1.1, and hopefully a couple other grants will help. Title I, definitely going up. We know that Title I will go up here. We had a decrease in it last year, it's going up we'll see an increase.
When do those numbers come in?
They're coming daily.
Okay.
now. You know, everything's moving pretty quickly now. So, I mean, we have grants, you know, our goal is, I'd love to get us to 900,000 last year. I think we were at 600,000 we asked for. We can get closer to that. We knew you had 600,000 last year, and we're asking for 300, not another million. I mean, my goal is to get as many grants as possible to come into the district. We are applying for everything that we can. So,
Well, I believe it. I also know that the fire chief applies for grants
Yeah.
constantly. The
the
police
fire chief just got a
applies.
grant that he uses with us, so. I mean, our Title I mean, it used to pay for 3 teachers, we might get 1 teacher out of it. I mean, it goes up, and now it's going back up because of our percentage of free and reduced. That's directly related to Title I. But I mean, when you look at a Brockton or a Lynn or a Revere, you're looking at 100% free and reduced lunch. You can't compete. I mean, they're getting millions of dollars, millions, to sustain. We're getting 100,000, 150,000, maybe 200,000. So I'm hoping to see more monies come in the grants, but can't always rely on that, and we understand that. And you know, Dave, you also said tonight, you know, what are we gonna do when we know we need these people? And 2 years from now, what are we gonna do? I don't think anybody would say that I haven't made difficult decisions or tried to do and had to do difficult things. We'll have to make decisions when that time comes. I hate to say that, but we have to do that. We do have revolving account funds. We do allocate that money and pay ahead in some of those areas, if whatever, especially in circuit breaker. You know, our circuit breaker funding for special education, we pay ahead for our out-of-district placements in June, so that it doesn't hit us again. You know, you see the dip, and now you're seeing it come back up, because we just got the other payment on that. So we're doing, I think, all of the departments, along with John's help, they try to do very creative funding and make sure that we can do things the right way. Feel like we're in alignment with our contracts. we've held a lot up and done some creative things in those areas. So hopefully we don't have to make the tough decision. I'm hoping that with the Route 18 and the expansion of it, Route 18, and the water lines and the sewers and those types of things, that we're gonna see some businesses come into our area and support schools and the fire, and, because you need fire. I mean, you need public safety when you have businesses. You need police, you need fire. We need DPW, we need schools. We have a wonderful town, and we need to support it, and I agree with you. I think we need to start banging on doors and get up there and have East Bridgewater be seen and be known, because we're not Weymouth, but from Abington, us, I mean, I look at it like right down the chute here, BR and West Bridgewater. I mean, what are we getting between the four of us? West Bridgewater got the most out of us. He got the most Chapter 70 that he's ever gotten in years. They get $1 million because of his population has increased. So, I mean, we're starting to see it now in the South Shore. So, hopefully we get grants, hopefully we can do some creative budgeting and get the numbers closer to what we would like and where we'd see. The millionaire's tax, the reason I brought that up is because that was brought up several times at the last 3 or 4 meetings. I know it's not gonna be a huge, but in education, people are paying to get on the MBTA. You know, people don't, public education is free. It's an access. It opens the doors for people, is education. You can't, you know, if you don't have it, it's hard to move. And they have an account that can continue to grow if they've got a good system.
They're subsidized every year.
I know, but what I'm saying is, for us, we don't have that. We don't make anything. We make great people. We don't. It's not like we're selling sneakers. And we can't sell kids. You know,
Well, you sell mattresses.
we do. We do. And tickets will be on sale for the high school musical on Friday.
That's right.
550 people are allowed Friday night, and 550 people are allowed Saturday night. And I can tell you, the kids are very excited, and we're very excited for it, because they've been waiting to do this type of production for a while. So, we have great things. We have great people. We have a great community. You know, we're trying to keep it in line. The social, emotional, the hospitalizations, it's sad. No child should have to have anxiety or stress or feel that they need a hospitalization. We shouldn't have that, but we do. And we're not the only ones. We shouldn't have to think about somebody putting up steel doors to walk into a school. But we do. But we also need fire sprinklers in the central school, and fire alarms that aren't run off of C batteries. So if that's my one push, that's the big one, because we buy a lot of batteries for central school, and we've been lucky. So
Yeah.
we have been. Any questions that you have, please forward them, and I'll.
Yeah, summarize, like, just send them to me, and then I'll get them over to John and Liz. And then we'll look at dates to have the technology folks come in.
Okay. Yeah, I think talking with Ryan and Andrew Lamaki and Josh Kavanaugh and even Aaron Fisher, who is our integration specialist at the district, they know what goes on in the classroom. They know what apps at what grade levels are being used. They know what the teachers are using. They know how Go Guardian works behind the scenes to keep our kids safe when they're up on it. You know, Go Guardian shuts it down if they get into a website that should not be in. And Andrew that's I think his forte is cybersecurity. That's why we brought him in years ago. He did it for a college, and now he's with us. Ryan, I think, is in cybersecurity. They spend a lot of time on this.
Yeah.
So I think having them, because I do not know.
Yeah.
Or even ClassLink,
I don't either.
No, I mean, even ClassLink, but I don't know the intricacies of it.
Yeah.
And I don't wanna say anything that would be erroneous, let them speak to it. They would know better.
Okay. No, that's good.
And I think Brian Kiley brought some of our things forward for capital, and
Yeah.
so,
I mean, everything that was on capital got approved, except for the ARPA stuff, because we're waiting to see what happens with ARPA anyway, so.
I did, I spoke to Deb, I think, not that we can't just go and take it, but I do like to talk to the directors, because she'll know if she's we put in that, if she's gonna put in a new dishwasher. She pays for it, she pays for the electrician to come in, so I need to know, I know they're doing a couple things over here, what are their summer projects? And how much is she gonna use for that, allocate for that? So those are things, but I did ask her, I said, give me half right now, give me 40,000.
We put the whole thing in there right now, we'll see what happens.
Hey, but if we can help, we certainly would want to. I mean, I think that the revolving accounts are there because of the town and their support, and we have a good school system, and we have kids that wanna come to our school system, and that's school choice. And we put that right back in, we use that, for a teacher if we need to, or a program, or, whatever is the case, so.
I do have a quick question.
Sure.
For the minutes.
Yep.
The dishwasher for the capital, is that, I think that was for this year.
Yeah.
What school or what?
That was at Mitchell School? That was at Mitchell.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yes.
And also, I attended that Kiwanis Club breakfast.
Oh,
I mean, they also give us scholarships, so I want to thank them. I mean, every little bit, like, you had said, all of you said, every little bit, it does help. I mean, the scholarships are tremendous. We have the Viking sports parents. I hope to see you out there running, Dave. And Saturday. Charlie, you running this year?
Been prepping for that for a while.
Charlie ran last year, he's not gonna run this year.
I'm running.
Are you running?
Yeah.
My
9
daughter,
a.m.
my
Sunday,
daughter's
right?
running for
Yep.
me.
Are you?
Okay.
didn't you,
That's what I sent you that.
Karen, you did really well last year, didn't you? No?
I'll be out there, I'll be riding around.
Oh, I thought that you were one of the top people.
No.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we want to go next into capital, and then we can get into general budget?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. I had sent out the capital schedule that Dave shared on email earlier.
Yeah, that's what they were trying, I'm interested to read that.
So,
All right, so, quick question.
Yeah, I have that.
So, why are we doing capital? Like,
Okay.
I
it's
thought-
just an update on, because of the finances of the town, where the money's gonna be coming
Oh,
from.
are you providing the update?
Yeah, I'll provide them. The
He's
chairman
on
of
the capital
Yeah, I know,
committee.
I know. I just didn't know if like someone else, another committee was
Well, we
coming.
were gonna come together, but
Yeah.
school was coming and things got kinda ruffled up a little bit, so actually after this meeting and stuff, we'll be able to have our meeting and go a little further. Good question though, Kevin. So, been an interesting time at Capitol. Once again, of course, we have received many more requests than we are able to fund, but I don't think that what we have here is really too unreasonable. But as we were going through this process this year, one of the things that came up was, where's our 5-year plan? What's going on here? And, because we had done that years before. And I think right before COVID, the Board of Selectmen got together with the Capitol and put together some sort of a 5-year plan that had a forecast, et cetera. And I found it. And, but it hasn't been updated. So that's one of the things that, after this cycle, we're gonna work on a 5-year plan to understand what's coming down the road. Like I said earlier, the middle school, the Mitchell School,
He wants to make,
it's just the turf field, all that, there's some big dollars out there. And that's how I started to think about using the stabilization fund, if it could relieve some of the debt that we had for operations. But the bottom line is, everybody's really pitched in here, and I can quickly go through the list, only a few items. Radio system upgrade, PPE for firefighting, fire station renovation project, that two of those are coming out of, no, one of them, two of them are coming out,
The firefighting PPE is.
yeah,
coming out of
firefighting
the ambulance
PPE
fund.
is gonna come out of the ambulance fund, and the rest will come from capital, which is $144,000. Working with the DPW and what the priorities were, we saw that, you know, they have a light dump truck, a supervisor's truck, and I think they're both over 15 years old. So we approved those. And then there was, of course, the commitment we've made to the community is road repair money every year, putting money in there. So you gotta keep the roads going, you know, I mean, there's things like that. So then we have,
And that matches chapter 90, correct? So it's really double. Because John gets his chapter 90.
yeah, John gets chapter
Yep.
90 money too, that's besides that, yeah. John did go for some repairs on wells 1, 2, 3, and 4, but I understand he's gonna put that off. And the Harvard and Pine Street rehabilitation for the meters, they're gonna put that off for another year. But then the committee thought that, you know, we gotta take care of our facilities. We haven't had a great historical record of taking care of our facilities, or at least in the appropriate way. So the security enhancements at the police, well, actually, that money was, it's actually not capital because it's not 20,000, but we had money in another article that was in the police department, and we're gonna reallocate that money to get that done. Then we have, and the library has some, then we have the locker room renovations. So there's locker room renovations at the police station and at the fire station. I don't know how many folks are aware, but we've added a few more females to both departments. And we do have to have some separation in locker rooms and showers, et cetera, and things like that. And quite honestly, having seen both places, I don't know if I'd want to shower there right now the way it is. So that's another thing. But in the library building, we have flooring, foundation waterproofing and sealing, and a flat roof repair and HVAC upgrades. Well, the roof leaks, so it comes down and it creates mold, and then it wrecks the floor. So look, we can't just do the floor this year.
Right.
We've got to start at the top and work our way down. So we've really looked at approving those 3 projects, of which is, you know, $900,000, roughly $900,000 right there in those projects. And then, as I said about this, in the master control rebuild for EBCAM, that's coming out of their own funding. So we're able to address that. And we did take the box truck for the schools, the outdoor security camera at the schools, and the technology switches and modules at the schools. And we approved those to kind of, you know, stay ahead of the game on these ones here. And the rest is really sitting there with ARPA right now. So how did we come up with paying for this how did we make more money? Well, we're not like the government, we just didn't print it off, okay? So what we did is we have a recommendation here, which we'll go to the Board of Selectmen with, is right now, as the way the numbers work, we would be taking, and these are not final because we don't have all the final numbers yet, $240,000 we're gonna propose to take out of the capital stabilization fund. Okay? Debt relief, working with Melanie, we have a certain amount coming off out of debt relief. We wanna see what we can bond with that. We believe we're gonna be able to get about $1.3 million worth of bonding out of that. The money's already used there, it's already used for capital, it's falling off. We don't want it to just go into the operating. That was supposed to be a fund that replenished itself somewhat. And then there is roughly $400,000 to $500,000 of free cash, hopefully, when this process is over. Or else,
The warrant's constantly changing too. Today I looked at it again to see what updates, and it could have been 5 to 6 in free cash, so maybe could be a little better, a little
oh,
less
great,
a
great.
little less
Yeah,
borrowed.
so these are in flux, they're gonna be fluid, but I think we've identified sources. And then on one of the school projects for the switches and stuff, there's a 50% reimbursement. So out of that 132,000, we're gonna get 66,000 back. And what I would propose to do is, since we're paying for it out of capital, when that 66,000 comes back, it goes back into the capital stabilization fund. And somebody asked me, how are we gonna track that? I says, I'm not gonna forget that, right? No way. But, so, those are kind of the areas we're looking at, and we wanna see what kind of a bridge or what we can do utilizing the capitalization stabilization fund as much as we could, for the purpose that it was meant to be. So, I first thought, well, if we take $240,000 and we take that and we can go out to bond for 10 years or whatever, and we can get $3 million, let's do that. And for 10 years, we'll pay $240,000. Yeah, but then we're gonna be paying interest on it and everything, so it doesn't make sense.
Right.
You're also though looking at the, ambulance is gonna be putting 1.3 back in capital stabilization, so if you're taking 2.4, you're only looking at $100,000. The capital.
1.3 into it, they're putting 133.
130, sorry.
Yeah,
And you
130
said
this year, and I think the
240
same thing
capital.
next year.
Yeah, 125
Right.
next year.
And it could be something that helps propel us into really kicking that into being used as the way that it should.
Right.
Because I gotta tell you, I'm very, well, I can't say I'm happy, because I'm really never happy, right? But seeing that we're on the track that we had planned last year, and we're still going along that track, it makes me feel good. It's, and it's our job to make sure we make recommendations along that way, and that's why as I was thinking about this, I mentioned, maybe there is something on the debt relief we can do with capital stabilization.
The one thing I just wanted to note where we were talking about stabilization, and specifically the general stabilization, is that we really need to keep that balance in mind, because as you talked about, we have a lot of big projects coming up, and our balance and stabilization is a big part of the matrix that agencies look at when we go out to bond. So that's something we have to keep in mind. We actually just got this month a notice from the DOR DLS about those balances and what they're used for, so.
Do they make a recommendation on what we should have in the stabilization fund?
I haven't seen one from them. It doesn't, I'm not saying it's not there. I haven't looked specifically there, but I did find a policy that the Board of Selectmen had signed in August of 2020, that for the general stabilization was recommending, and maybe it actually did come from, the DLS recommends, so the DLS recommends the municipalities strive to maintain a stabilization fund balance equal to 5 to 10% of its annual budget. So we are right now for
That's
our.
3 to 6 million. We have 2.4.
Yeah, because if you back out the enterprise funds, we're about $260,000 short of 5%. So.
So why are you saying 5%? I like 10%.
No, I do too, but I wanted to say, I was showing we are not yet at 5.
I know. Well, years ago, when we
We're
were coming out of
$3,047,211 short of 10%.
So when we were coming out of a crisis years ago, and we had to use stabilization fund, equal amount in, equal amount out, et cetera, like that. After that, we tried to put ourselves on a trajectory to get to 10% for stabilization fund. And I believe we either got there or we got really close to it, but, of course, everything goes up in cost. That was when the budget was $25 million too. It was a lot easier. So, but, so we just gotta look at all these different things. I think we've tried to offer some solutions and some things to look at, and, from what I can see so far, everybody's kind of pitching in to get to where we need to be.
Yeah.
We still have a bit to go.
We have a bit to go.
Yeah, I would say that's a good segue into where we're at from a budget perspective. So I forwarded out a revised copy from Melanie tonight. And I want to thank Melanie. She's been crunching every number possible. So trying to look to make sure. And I think it's a good exercise to go through, right, to make sure that we're budgeting realistically, because, I mean, you could budget conservatively and you could have $2 million of free cash at the end of every year and have departments that go without because of that, but we're trying not to do that, so. Based on where we're at, so several departments did revise their budgets. There was a department head meeting last week? Yes, last week. And they were asked to go back and just see where could they trim, what could they trim. So several departments came back, IT, police, fire, DPW, council on aging. So thank you to all of them that were able to go and make some modifications. Based on that and where we're standing, if you scroll down, if you go to the tab that says totals with revenue, and if you scroll down to like row 74, where we start to look at revenue, and column B's this year, column C's go forward. You can see revenues do go up, taxation goes up, you know, our state aid did go up slightly, local receipts. Free cash went down because we said we were gonna reduce the amount of free cash we use to balance the budget. So that's why there's a decrease there. Contribution from the ambulance fund went up. And so on and so forth. You can go through every line there, but the issue that we ran into is that we received a supplemental assessment from Plymouth County for retirement, and that increase basically offset new growth, right? That we project more than offset, right?
By about 150,000.
Yeah. And then we saw increases from the regional school district came in higher than expected. We haven't gotten the ag yet.
It was about 160,000 increase in the VOTET. Our health insurance up close to 5% overall. So a lot of big numbers.
And we still don't have any of the contracts that are being negotiated right now in this number. And it leaves
That
us.
plays into the free cash that we were talking about, is how many of these contracts get settled by town meeting.
Right. So we're at a $634,643 deficit for the end of the year.
What number did you have? Sorry, just
634,643. Now that doesn't account for the ARPA article that's for the schools, that's $300,000. Charlie talked about that in his meeting with the Board of Selectmen on Monday, and they'll be meeting
Sometime next week.
sometime next week, so.
They seem receptive to the idea of advancing that even before the ARPA committee has finished its work, but to say yes to that so that we could, again, you know, as we all talked about it, we'll have a can to kick in 26, but we'll.
Right. Yeah, it just kicks the can down the road. And then what we heard from Liz tonight, there's still some grant funding out there that she's waiting to hear on. So, I mean, if ARPA goes through and then she gets those 2 grants, we're down to $14,000, which isn't bad.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be quite happy with that.
what'd you have us down to? Sorry, the
14. So if she gets the 300
yeah
from ARPA, and then she said if she gets the 170 for
okay,
transportation,
so that's already factored in
that's.
because we boosted up local receipts for that.
She was talking about grants, though. I think that she's waiting to
We'd
hear on.
have to just double check on that because we increased homeless transportation, local receipts for homeless transportation by 170.
Okay.
So we have to check on that.
Okay.
That's why I think it might be beneficial to like get a listing of all the grants that they're applying for to see what we can offset against maybe. I don't know.
So I believe any ones that they know are coming are already taken out of this budget. I believe, like if they know like Title I, 94, 142 that they get, I don't think those positions are in this budget at this point, but yeah, we could see, it's just hard, we don't know if the money's coming.
We don't,
When?
right. I mean, yeah. And the deadline, I don't have it in front of me. I apologize. Charlie, do you know the deadline for the warrant?
I don't have it
It's
either.
the
Okay.
17th.
It's not next week. I think we were aiming for
That's last year's.
That's even better.
I know. I've made that mistake way too many times.
That next week, I think we were aiming to be done by the end, before Melanie left, because we can't get this done without her. So if she
Hoping
leaves,
for the
we.
10th, I think.
April 10th, right.
Well, or 10th or 11th, something in
Right.
that order, yeah. I mean, in a sense of, some point that week, we need to be done.
Has there been any talk or conversation, if we aren't done in time, about what we've done in the past, is have the meeting, adjourn it, and move it out a week or two?
I know it was tossed around even before from the school department, because of all the uncertainty in the grants, but I don't know what
But it
the
hasn't been brought
discussion
up
was.
since, because, I mean, it was more a question of when the state budget was gonna come out. And the governor had come out with a Chapter 70 number the last week of February, which meant that they could vote a budget fairly easily, which they've done, obviously, and submitted it. So, I mean, at the state level, honestly, I understand Liz's optimism about the $1 billion, but I think that's going to be, I think those are gonna be more grants than operating costs, in the sense that we can rely on that money every year. And what our Chapter 70 number is what it's gonna be. I mean, we were not one of the minimum aid communities that only got $30 per student. We got far more than that. So even if the state legislature increases the amount per pupil for the minimum to 50 or 70 or whatever, we're not gonna see anything change. And the unrestricted local aid is such a minor part of our budget that, you know, even if they raise the percentage from 2% to 3 or 4 or 5, whatever, it doesn't really affect what we're trying to do here.
Right.
Well, Charlie, I was starting to get in a better mood,
You know, I'm sorry.
but you've wrecked it.
For the supplemental budget that, they
Government.
voted on, and it was I think there was 75 million for, special education reserves. Do we have any idea at this point how that will be?
That would be for in the year we're in now.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
That was the current fiscal year?
Yeah, if any of that special ed money is getting distributed, as Melanie said, the governor just signed that earlier today. We'll see what that comes out with, but that may be just a larger reimbursement of the circuit breaker. We'll find out how the money's gonna be used, but it'll be the year we're in now, rather than next year.
Okay. So there's still a lot of uncertainty. I mean, we'll feel better, hopefully, after the Board of Selectmen votes if that deficit's cut nearly in half. And I think there's not a lot more to talk about tonight until we kind of crunch more numbers, I think, over the course of the next week and meet again next Tuesday. Unless there's any
Oh.
other.
Taking that cue, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion by Dave, second by Karen. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night.